Welcome everyone tonight to our MFA reading series with our special guest, Mary Jones. So glad you could all be here. With our readers tonight, we have Chelsea Covington-Moss, Christine Salvatore, Brandon Hartman, Donna Keegan, and Jim McGurl. So welcome and enjoy.
My first fight was in the locker room of Neil Armstrong Middle School. I was in 7th grade and we had just come in from playing football on the slimy fields during gym class. I was trying to stay low-key because I had stood up to a bully and had become the uninvited center of attention. I could feel my classmates' eyes following me as I approached my locker to change. Billy was already changing when I got there. "Dude, what happened? Did you hit Chris on the football field?" He was my best friend and his locker was to the left of mine. Kind of. He threw a football at my back because he said I was celebrating too much, so I picked it up and threw it back. It hit him in the head. When I threw the ball, I didn't intentionally aim for his head. Or maybe I did. I just threw in anger and let gravity decide my fate. She was a fickle mistress that day. "That's it?" Billy asked. "Yeah." He came at me and I hit him 3 times as he moved forward. This gut reaction to strike first and early would haunt me throughout my life. We called it back then getting snuck. I punched him 3 times fast, stick and move. Before he knew what happened. He was bigger and faster than me, but he was also dumber, and I knew he wouldn't expect something like that from mousy little Jim. I figured I could confuse him enough with the surprise to stop him from doing anything like pulping my face, and I was right. He just laughed and walked away. It didn't faze him, and Horwat broke us up, but it's over, so let's move on. Horwat was the gym teacher. He was stocky but taller than all of us, and he looked like he could wrestle a rhino and win. "Wow," exclaimed Billy. I closed my locker door after I slipped on my shoes untied. Chris was standing ominously behind it. He looked pissed. "I hate people who brag. We'll see how tough you are in the hallway." Chris then turned to walk away. It's tough to know what really goes on in your mind during the early stages of a fight because the adrenaline kicks in and memories get somewhat muddied. I have some trouble here remembering what my thought process was, or why I reacted this way to some of the things going on. I just did. I jumped up and pushed off the bench where most of the other boys were sitting, putting on their regular school clothes. It was stapled to the floor by steel divots that plunged right through the tiles. I was going to take advantage of whatever upper hand I had because, with my stature and fighting record, I was going to need it. I wasn't wimpy, but I certainly wasn't built, and I wore glasses most of my life. I wasn't Hulk Hogan staring down Andre the Giant, but I didn't feel like losing was a foregone conclusion. I read books and wrote and was more interested in Kurt Vonnegut than Kurt Warner, but I was devoid of physical strength. I wasn't devoid of physical strength. My knowledge of fighting wasn't deep, mostly Bruce Lee movies and pro wrestling pay-per-views, but I certainly wasn't going to let some cocksure son of a bitch like Chris walk all over me. I drove my knee like an old school kung fu movie right to the small of Chris's back and drove him face first into the lockers in front of him. He struck them hard head first because he didn't get his hands up in time. I grabbed his head WWE style and slammed it numerous times into the locker doors. The hollow clang, whether from the lockers or his empty head, echoed all throughout the locker room. I was hoping Horwat would hear the commotion and come running. Meanwhile, I started flailing fists into any part of his anatomy I could make contact with. The force of my blows wouldn't do a ton of damage, I knew, but I felt like the more haymakers I threw, the more chance I had of doing damage. The law of averages. Chris regained himself and started to push back, slowly turning towards me. I vaguely remember connecting with 3 or 4 solid shots to his jaw from both sides. I had my eyes closed. He moved forward lurchingly, slinging his own lefts and rights in combinations, but they were just grazing my face. Like 2 dancers in a violent ballet, our bodies were traveling in unison, so every inch he gained, I took away by moving back. At the same moment, I realized that I wasn't getting killed by this mammoth football player. Chris looked like he could have joined the Third Reich, strong, blonde, and brickbox stupid. Fate took over again. I stepped on my own untied shoelaces, which in haste to gain ground in battle I had neglected to tie. I cursed myself, thinking of all the times my mother had warned me of an incident just like this, and felt my own equilibrium shift. I toppled over, landing hard and flat on my ass. I looked up, and Chris now saw his opportunity to turn the tide of the fight. He reached down and gripped my shirt, slightly lifting me so my face was primed for impact. I can recall the exact number of times he punched me in the forehead. For 8 solid down, swinging blows, he hit me, almost the same spot every time. There was no sound anymore, but I could feel a bell ringing in a tower some ways off, signifying the thump of his anger on my skull. I recklessly attacked from my seated perch, desperately struggling to connect with some part of his body. I would have been happy simply to interrupt the blows raining down on me, but it seemed in vain. Later, a friend told me it looked like I hit him in the nuts a few times, but they weren't sure. All of a sudden, right after number 8, Chris let go. "I think you've had enough." He turned and stumbled towards the exit. Horwat came in and pulled him into the office. I jumped immediately to my feet, still fueled by rage and adrenaline. I wasn't dead. In fact, I wasn't even in pain either, until I looked at Billy staring gap-mouthed at me. A new terror was on my mind. My parents were going to be extremely mad. I very well may have had to face death twice in one day. I walked out to my dad and as he handed me my backpack. Does Mom know? I asked sheepishly. Yeah, wait till we get in the car. We were silent as we walked to his Dodge Ram truck, a perk from his employer, Waste Management. Don't tell your mother I told you this, he began. But they told me, Vitali told me, that you fought a bully. You were defending yourself. He wouldn't make eye contact, partially because he was driving, but I like to believe that it was also because he was proud. I was, Dad. Ask Billy. Well, do you know he passed out in the nurse's office? Does Billy know that? No. I had no idea. That was why he looked the way he did when his parents had taken him out. I must have knocked him unconscious. Well, apparently, you gave him a concussion. I'm not saying that it's good you fought. That is never a good idea, especially in school. You're there to learn. But if some asshole kid is bullying you to the point you fought him, I gotta believe he had it coming. Understand that doesn't make it right, but I'm not mad at you. He looked over quickly and then back at the road. How about next time try to cover your face? I almost laughed, but knew it would hurt and be a little inappropriate, so I chuckled a little in acknowledgement. I hadn't really been scolded for my sins. I had been lauded. I had defended myself and won out. I just hoped Mom would be as lenient on me. I had a sinking feeling that she wouldn't.